it's safer that we go to the questions now. So let me go to the questions. So okay, one of the questions that came through here is, does being a quant make you a better trader? Meaning that you can go and trade with your own money and make millions. If not, how does being a quant help you understand trading better? I think that's a very good question.
Yeah, it is. It is. And again, it speaks to the type of quant. So remember we spoke about types of quants, and it all depends on whether you are in that space. So I'm not anywhere near trading or doing any math or quantitative analysis for trading and for traders. So that is a different job spec. I think it's in market risk, where you're looking at the risks associated with certain trades that people can make, and quantifying that. I think if you are in that space, maybe you can acquire those types of skills. As to whether that can make you a big shot or a big time trader, I am not certain at all. I'm not certain at all, but I do think empirically speaking, it's not a lot of people, even though maybe people might work at a company doing that A, might have enough money to bring in money. So your money might not be able to circumvent the risk enough for you to eventually be able to get money. So you might have a capital problem, a startup capital problem. But also, I don't think people are always willing to take that risk. I think it's easier to just work for a company, and that company pays you a salary and you do that for them. If they lose it, their money. It's not yours. You are kind of on a hedged investment, because whether the bank loses or wins, you'll still get your salary and your bonus. But if you're doing it alone, I think it requires a little bit of guts and maybe some capital backing, I think.
I guess maybe the person was actually looking at it from a perspective of the kind of work that you guys do dealing with risk. And I guess they were juxtaposing risk, but in a trading space, to say if somebody's a quant and they have some form of understanding of risk and trading having a risk element and some form of volatility, wouldn't they then become better at trading because of they already come with the this experience or expertise of somehow modeling or predicting or managing risk?
Yeah. So from that perspective, I think you can certainly learn the principles of risk management, and maybe those are transferable to trading. But I do know that if you're looking at trading as a whole, it might be more helpful if you have been in that space and have experienced that and acquired those specific skills and that specific knowledge for you to branch out on your own and go and trade. I can't speak too much for whether that would be successful because I don't have any evidence to support that it would. I only know that you will definitely get a general principle or general principles of understanding how to manage risk and how to understand kind of what risk means and how one can go about working with with risky situations. But as to the mechanics and the skill level that can land you there, I don't think that I can speak a lot on that.
I see. One other question here, which is quite of a bit of a tangent, but we'll hear your take on this. How can one who has the same qualifications as you use them to better their lives and their families? And what have you done with the knowledge you have to better your life and your families? This is
That's a very good question, eh?
yeah.
That's a very, very good question. I think from my perspective, I'm gonna answer it from my perspective and then move on to the general instead of starting from the general and moving on to my perspective. I think when you talk about using your skills to better your family, I think for a lot of us that speaks a lot to maybe our background. And I think certainly an important part of bettering our families and so on is lending a helping hand for people to understand what's out there. I think when you fall into the space, you fall into a very fortunate position of actually having an understanding of something that people don't really know. I mean, you can go into Wits and spend 4 years there, and you still come out of there not knowing what a quant is. You've not experienced anything that has to do with what quants are or what they do or how your skills can be learned there. So I think a big part of using your skills is firstly teaching. You can help people learn what you do. From my perspective, that is a big win. From what I've seen, that's a big win already. To tell people and explain to people, because from the background we come from, like we spoke about before, we there's not much. It's not like there's a career fair that's going to come there and teach you all about these things. So you know only what you know: doctor, lawyer, you are lucky chartered accountant, engineer of some kind. But you don't really know what's out there. You don't know that there's like a investment banker, there's a quantitative analyst, there's a metadata analyst, there's a DQ analyst, there's all sorts of careers that are driven from certain things that people might believe are limited. So, like, if you study maths and you live in the village, they're gonna ask you, what the hell are you gonna do with the maths? you know, and it doesn't offer any sense of security. I remember when I think I've mentioned the story before, but when I came to bed, someone who was studying chartered accounting asked me, "What am I going to do with an economics degree? Because there's no jobs for that." Um, and it's a scary question. You don't know what the answer is. And my own mother also asked me when I picked the degree, "Will you find a job with this degree that you're picking?" I said, something will come up. It was just a leap of faith. I didn't know. But I think it's cool to be able to use the knowledge that we've learned to say there is something you can do. In fact, there's a lot that you can do because a lot of the problems need to be quantified. The problems of the country, the problems of companies, the problems that are there need to be quantified in order for them to be solved. That is what our skill set allows us to do. And I think for me, it's really more in educating the people around me, including my family, about what we do and what is out there. I mean, I can imagine even for you, there was not a lot of people who would know where you would end up when you initially took on your degree. That you would be that you would be you'd have achieved a PhD in mathematics and be teaching mathematics at that level. People probably don't know that that can be done, and that that is actually something that one can actually set out to do. So I think it's in learning those, it's in teaching those things to say this is possible, you can do this. Just because if you're passionate about math, it doesn't mean that you can't do anything with it. Your passion doesn't have to end there. You can do more, and that is what I think we can do. You know, that is what I try to do. But I think that is what we can all do with all the exposure that we get.
You've just summarized the main aim and the main purpose of this channel, because it's exactly that.
Yeah.
The reason why I started this channel was, so in class I would have these students who'd come, and they're like, I'm doing this, I'm doing maths, I'm doing this. Where will I end up? And I used to think that is a maths issue, but I also used to lecture engineering students, and also they would also have the same questions to say, I'm doing engineering, but I don't want to go into the engineering industry. I don't want to, can I do something with it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, quite interesting. That's when I formulated the idea to say, maybe let me speak to people who are in the spaces who can talk about this kind of things. So we need to do that.
Yeah. 100%.
As someone,
sorry, I was just gonna say it's really good work that you do. Really good work.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Thank you. As someone who's interested in engineering, auto industry, and perhaps who has the same qualifications as you, let's say that they want to get into the manufacturing of planes, cars, trucks, trains, ships, etc. How relevant are these qualifications in such an industry? Do you get the question, right?
Yes.
Okay,
I think
sure.
there's a lot of work that and I think you're speaking specifically to the manufacturing of those vehicles. There's a lot of applications for the degree that is applied maths. When I speak specifically to my qualification, because I think the question is kind of asked to my qualification. Applied maths is a multi-industry study of problems. We look at problems from logistics, from finance, agriculture, game theory, even manufacturing. So, I mean, if you're looking at that, you can potentially pick up a little bit of physics, a little bit of engineering knowledge, and you can end up as some kind of a specialist in those kinds of fields, because they always require some level of modeling. So what we've done is mathematical modeling, and contrary to the something like the Black-Scholes equations, usually things like automotive design and manufacturing and optimization is deterministic. It's not random, because you don't want to be driving in a car that is coming out of a random model, because you never know whether you're going to arrive at your destination or not. You need something that is solid. So in those industries, we are 100% sure what we are doing. So if you are modeling for those industries, you are building mathematical models to determine certain things and doing things like sensitivity analysis. So whatever it is that you're doing in those areas, you can use your degree. And in fact, you probably mostly will use your degree. So I think there is space there. One just needs to maybe do some bit of research and find out. I am not by any means qualified to tell you what's out there in the automotive industry and so on. But what I can tell you is that if I were going in there, I would say that this is what I know, this is what I've done, and this is what I can do. Because I know that the degrees that we do tap into a certain space of problem solving. And what I also now, from a working perspective, can retrospectively tell you is that you can't really go into a job and know everything. Even when you're moving company to company, there's things that are in one company called a certain thing and in another company called a different thing, even though the companies are similar. You will still have to learn. Again, comes back the willingness to learn. You can go in there because maths is generic. Maths describes the world. It doesn't just describe a specific industry. If you want to go there, you can tell them what you do and what you know and what you can do for them and what you have, what you envision. And I don't doubt that at the very least, people will hear what you have to say.
You should probably know Prof. David Mason.
Yes.
So he runs this special program called Maths in Industry Study Group, whereby it's more like some sort of a workshop or conference whereby industry actually presents some of the problems that they have, and then the study group tries to solve those problems, obviously using any applied maths methods or any maths methods. And I was reading at some of the works that they have done in the study groups, and some of the problems were in agriculture, some of them were in manufacturing. So definitely what you're saying actually touches on that, because you can still do that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that 2 week workshop where they solve those problems really goes to show how vast you can apply maths in the real world. You know, this is not theoretical problems. These are actual problems that people model and solve.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%.
So someone here says that I'm currently doing my PSc in statistics and mathematics. I love mathematics, but I'm not willing to land in academia. With that being said, I would like to hear about how difficult it is to find a job as a quant, actuary, data scientist, considering my course.
So the question of how difficult is it, I think is a bit of it's a complex question to answer. I think I would rather answer it in another way. If you are passionate about quantitative fields, you will just need to do the research and find out which place will better serve your maths passion, especially if you don't want to go into academia. I think academia from a maths passion perspective is probably first prize. But if you're still willing to serve that quantitative person inside you, it's better to do your research as to which one. And once you have it, try very hard to get into that industry. Those industries are, I think, looking for people who are passionate and talented like you. So it would be it's a doable task for you to get a job in industry. You just need to find out what most speaks to your passion. We work with data, so you're not going to find a theorem in well, let me not say you're not going to find it. You will find it. There's a few, but you're not going to prove theorems in industry, or you're not going to be talking about them on a daily basis. You're going to be talking about reality on a daily basis. You're in the insurance space, you're going to be talking about mortality rates. You're going to be talking about maybe increased claims, modeling for premiums and whatnot. You're going to be talking about things that are tangible, that have to do with the business making mind. So if you're looking to go into industry, you need to figure out what really, really tickles your fancy from which industry tickles your, which job, I guess, job or career tickles your fancy from a maths perspective. Because if you are lucky enough, or maybe do like enough research, you might find an industry that actually works with mathematical equations and things like that on a regular basis. I know there's one in market risk. If you fall into the right space in market risk, you might find yourself dealing with those models every day, in spaces where you learn every day, where on a daily basis you have to open a textbook to reference an equation and apply it and solve for something. It's there. It's there. But you have to do your research and figure it out and find out what speaks to you. And once you've found that out, then you try your very best to get there.
How hard was it for you to land a job into the quant space? My understanding that you went through a graduate program and stuff, but
Yeah.
how hard, or maybe the question should be how competitive it is to get into, because I see like the banks, they do take some people in the graduate programs, but it's usually few people, like maybe 10, 20 or something like that. It looks competitive, huh?
It is very competitive, especially with my experience at the banks. It's quite competitive. You can get thousands of applications and they only pick maybe 10. When I was in honors, I made a list. 30 financial industry companies, whichever ones offered a quantitative role that I thought is a good place to learn, I applied. And it's not easy because some of them will reject you straight out. Some of them will give you an interview. Some of them will give you an interview and a psychometric. Some of them you'll get all the way. Some of them you'll get the job. So, I mean, it's always good when fishing to cast your net wide. You need to work hard at getting the job. It's not just gonna come looking for you. That's for sure. There's a lot of other people that are looking for jobs, same as you. The unemployment, as I'm sure you would know, is very high. So the unemployment rate. So we are all looking for a job. You need to find a way to differentiate yourself and make it um, make it difficult for companies to say no to you. You need to come in with a little bit of flavor, but also good, robust technical ability and passion for what you do.
Do you remember your first job rejection? Hey, because those can hurt,
Hey, I don't remember my first one wasn't as bad actually. I applied and I was rejected. I was still doing. I think I was still doing third year, and I was trying to apply for the next year so that I can get in with just my BSc. In fact, it was Quant, but yeah, with just my undergraduate. That was intense. I think, yeah, you feel it. It's like your first time failing a test university, especially at
Sure.
that. Most people would have never failed a test in their lives, and you fail that first one. It's the one for the history books because you really feel it. But yeah, it was in my third year, but I played it off as I'm underqualified, so I just did my honors and tried again.
Man, I remember getting lost in Centern because when I was doing my honors, because everyone was applying for a job, and I'm
Yeah,
like, hey, I need to also apply. Let me just apply for something, yeah. But I knew that I want to go and do my masters. But you just feel left out, People are applying
yeah.
and you're just sitting there alone. You're like,
Ah, shit. Maybe.
everyone is busy. So I applied to this company. What was the name of this company? I think it was Monocol Solutions, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they called me for the interviews. They're in Centern. I have never been to Centern. I'm using the taxi. I remember getting lost in Centern. I get to the place, I'm sweating and everything like that. They let us to write some psychometric test and everything like that. And a few days after that, they send me that, those emails of like, we regret to inform you. Hey, oh, that
So
thing
many
went to
of
the
those.
heart.
Like it even gets to a point where you are used to it. The first one hits you, then like after that, like you develop some sort of a coping mechanism. Just learn to live. Just like, oh, another one. But it's terrible at the beginning and at the end. If you are first, so like it the first one will hurt and the last one will hurt. Like your last option. That one which you were hoping would be the one.
Mm.
That one rejected, and that one is painful. The first one is painful because you have not done this before, and everything is in between. So I think it really builds character. It really builds character because you work hard,
Sure.
like you say, like you get on a taxi, get on the train, whatever you do, get to Central because most of those companies are in Central. Get to Central, you don't know which building. When you walk into the buildings, they look nothing like what you know. You know,
Mm.
you left maybe wherever you come from and been into a lecture hall, but you've never been into an office block that fancy. You come in with your formal wear, all the people just look fancy and shiny, and, and you don't know what to say and whether what you're saying is right. And just that sweating and very nervous and all of that stuff. Because everyone else looks just as sharp as you look, and you wonder whether they're more confident than you or whether they will get the job in you want. So it's a difficult experience, but it builds character.
Yeah, it definitely does, man. It definitely does. Um, do I need to do an honors or masters in financial engineering to become a quant?
The short answer to that is no. Most of the quants that I know have a vast array of degree. You don't need to do it. You can do it if you want to, and it will still lend you a quant. Most of the people I know have studied maths, applied maths, statistics, actuarial sciences, engineering. Uh, there's a few that are like some of them are from the health sciences. Um, uh, and then there's people who have done computer science. It's all sorts. It's also then there's the people that have done financial engineering, financial mathematics, and all of that stuff. So we come from a vast array of backgrounds. There are people that have done all the engineerings, aeronautical, bioinformatics, electrical, mechanical, all of those engineerings. It's a vast array. The important thing is that people know that you're sharp and they will teach you the jargon, the language, the way to do things. Yeah.
What is financial engineering all about? Have you met? Do you guys have it as one of the portfolios in where you work? Because it's popping up in many questions in my channel, and maybe I need to get someone who's quite acquainted with such a profession.
Yeah, I think a person who does financial engineering will be able to answer a lot of the questions that I've been waffling and trying to trying to answer with my limited knowledge. You know, the questions about the Black-Scholes equation, questions about trader, does your ability and your knowledge of risk and stuff make you a better trader and things like that. I think it would actually be a cool thing to get someone who has that kind of knowledge to answer those questions better. But I think financial engineering is a field of study. I don't know that there is a actual job title for it. I've never really come across it, especially in my field of work. But it is where I think people learn a lot about financial instruments and the modeling behind it. It depends on where you want to end up. If you want to end up in market risk, I think it's a really, really cool thing to know because market risk tends to need domain knowledge. You need to know certain things about the discipline for you to be able to participate there. So if you do want to end up as a market risk analyst or somewhere in markets, then it would be a good thing for you to do that. But that's all I know.
Oh yeah. Did the BSc in Economic Sciences play a part in Mr. Temoso obtaining his job?
In a way, it did. In a way, it did. I think the application did. Not necessarily the fact that people saw that I did economics and they automatically thought I would be better than someone who did engineering at the job. I think when the job spec goes out, it goes out saying engineer, econometrics, maths, applied maths, statistics. Anyone can apply. But there are certain questions. You are in the financial industry after all, right? So there are certain questions which can be related to what is happening in the economy, which you would be better able to answer if you have an economics background. So I think your application of the knowledge that you have to your advantage is where your degree would have helped you to get a job.
Yeah. So I think that's where a lot of people get worried, especially those who just come from pure maths, because they feel like I'm getting into this financial world or in this banking world, and I know nothing, like literally, about the jargon used there and even the kind of thinking that is actually. But you say these things can be learned along the way.
Yeah, like I feel like to give yourself a little bit more comfort and read a little bit more, understand what is happening in the economy currently, understand some of the general terms that people use, unemployment rate, what is the GDP, what is inflation. If you just understand those basics of, that and what is happening, I think it can give you some mental comfort. Not that it might necessarily land you in a better position for a job, but it can give you comfort so that you don't feel like you don't know anything that's finance related. But from getting a job perspective, I don't think that that has a very strong correlation with you getting a job. I think the quantitative areas want people that can solve problems. So as a challenge, what problem can you solve? Or how can you solve your problem? How can you solve the fact that you are nervous about the fact that you don't know enough? Take that as a problem, model it, see how you can solve it. I think that's what
Yeah,
companies are looking for more than the fact that you know what the GDP is quarter on quarter.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would like to actually do on this channel is to follow people to work, like follow them, like
Yeah.
have a crew that actually will come to you when you leave your place, and then they follow you to work, and when you get into your work, and then they follow you, like literally like shadowing you for the day, because I
Yeah.
feel like we need to give people a glimpse of actually what happens. So now take me through this on a normal day when you get to work. How does the day of a quant look like? um when you get into work, I imagine you guys are in a suit and ties. I'm from work like this. That's how cool my job is, here's me advertising academia. Like I can, the cool thing that I like about academia is that, like, yeah, you can rock up to a lecture with shorts and uh, you know um so, but I guess with you guys is suit and ties, formal type of thing. So take us through a day in the life of a quant.
So the cool part is that I can say me too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
That's
can say me too now. Now I can say 45 academia anymore.
that's
So,
dope.
so yeah. So for the most part, I think if you want to wear your like suit and tie, you can wear it to work. I mean, it still look nice, especially next to the people that there are people that have to. Some people are front facing, so they face clients and close business deals. You can't be closing business deals wearing a hoodie, Richard Raiders. You have to look a little bit more sharp, and you wanna look sharp next to those people, then you can wear your suit and tie. But I think as a quant, you don't really need to concern yourself that much with that. I don't think that it's that important. Um, Nowadays, it's also hybrid. So for most companies, it's hybrid. You maybe at best come into the office once, twice, 3 times a week, and um, you are home the other times. So it's different. For some people, they don't even have to come to work. For some people can move away and live in different cities and work from there. So on a daily basis, I would say that you will, in the morning, especially for me, in the morning, I will get in front of my screen, whether that is at the office or that is at home. Uh, uh, Normally, one will have a set of tasks that they need to do. Either it's the tasks that you need to do on a regular basis, or it's projects that you're working on. Um, yeah, one would have that, and there's a lot of collaboration. So it's not like adverts where you have an assignment that you just do that assignment alone. And only your name will appear in front of that assignment, unless it's a group assignment. Um, at work, it's more of a collaborative effort. If you're stuck on something, you can ask other people and figure out whether they've done something like this before or if they have a different way that you can try something. That is another uh, cool thing is that, the work is a little bit more well, we're sharing the load. We're sharing the load. It's not the same as varsity where whether you have or not, you have to, if you decide to neglect your work, you will surely collapse. But in industry, if you decide to neglect your work, maybe you'll collapse, but the company certainly won't because of. So it's all about pulling your own weight, but at the same time contributing and how much you can give and how much you have to offer. So yeah, from that perspective, I would say that that is what we do. You go for lunch at some point and then you come back, and continue with your work. There'll be a few meetings, either you set up or someone sets them up with you. And then eventually, maybe whatever you worked on, you will have to present it to an audience that wants to see and use, make decisions off of, or yeah, something like that. And that will be kind of your regular basis. Then once you're done with the one thing, you move on to the next, so on and so forth.
There is a last question here, which is quite interesting. You're going to love this one. I hope so. But before we get to that last question, I want to ask you this. Earlier today, I was consulting with some students. And man, there is just something when you help somebody, especially as a lecturer, well, at least for me, and you see that aha moment, that light in their eyes, where like they get it now, man, that's the best thing that can happen to me on a day. Seeing somebody really understanding and owning up the work, and you see their face changing is a nice view for me. What is the best thing, if you can say, about being a quant? Like that, like sort of fulfills you, like sort of like, yeah, this is like that moment where like, yeah, this is the best thing about being a quant in your experience, of course.
I think it's the ability to make a difference. So most of the time, if you work in a big company, you are part of thousands of workers. And I think sometimes what makes it all worthwhile is to see the work that you do making a tangible difference in the lives of your co-workers, your superiors, and so on, and B, just moving the company forward. If you are in some way, shape, or form, however small or big, responsible for something that made someone else's life a little bit better or made the company move forward a little bit, then I think for me, that is what it's about. It's about you feel that you being there makes a difference, and it makes a positive difference and not a negative one. I think that's a big thing.
I see. Now the last question, and I have to reserve this for last. I don't know, that saying of like you reserve the best for last. I don't want to say this is the best question, but it's just different. Because if I say it's the best question, then I'm nullifying the other people who sent through their questions, because they were also good questions. So the question goes as this: if Mr. Kgalane is married, how can he describe his wife and his marriage, some of the values and principles they hold? If also he has children, what are some of the things he tells his children about life and how to go about always having the best outcomes? And what is the profession of his wife?